Imagine that you're an 11-year-old girl. Right here, right now, in our society in 2011, you're an 11-year-old girl. And if TED had been yesterday, you could have been 11 on 11/11/11, which would have been really great. Okay, now let's take another step backwards and let's imagine an 11-year-old Harriet Tubman. Imagine it's 1826. You're Elizabeth Cady Stanton. You're 11, and you're in your father's chambers protesting the immoral law that says a woman cannot vote. Imagine that you are in 1908, and you're Amelia Earhart. You just built your own homemade roller coaster. Are you ready to take a journey of a lifetime? Come with me and journey back in time.
Here I go! Here I go!
Become a heroic girl by becoming a heroic woman when she was 11. Journey with me, as these four girls did, to become heroic girls. I want to tell you the story of Heroic Girls. It's the story of an educational project that was done initially with 4 11-year-old girls.
Alon, Devin, Thea, and Emma.
They could think about what it meant to come of age, but it also allowed them to do this active and playful activity to imagine what it is that they could become by journeying to the past in order to discover their own future. Heroic Girls was born when I was taking a trip with my 2 daughters. We saw the sign that said, "Welcome to Auburn, New York, home of Harriet Tubman." So we went there, we took the tour, and the volunteer from the Mount Zion Church told us that when Harriet Tubman was 11, she jumped in between a slave catcher and an escaping slave. And she helped that slave, that man escaping slavery, towards freedom. And the slave catcher took a big piece of iron and hit her upside the head. This caused Harriet problems for the rest of her life. She had narcolepsy. She would fall asleep at inopportune moments. And there were many of those moments for her because she became, as we know, one of the greatest freedom fighters of all time. And Emma turned to me and said, "Mom, I'm 11. And I said, "Yeah, I mean, it's kind of amazing. She figured out what it was she was going to become at 11. So we had actually already planned to have a one-day-a-week homeschooling project that would be in conjunction with the Mountain Road School. And we knew what we wanted to do was to have this one day a week be about the fact that they were coming of age. Together with the moms and with my personal hero, Meg Agnew, we decided that we would suggest this to the girls. What if they were to choose a woman from history that they could research, and they would investigate what was going on with her when she was 11. I read to them a piece that I had written from the viewpoint of Harriet Tubman when she had leapt between the slave catcher and the escaping slave, and said, what if you thought about what this would be like for you? And they were down with this idea. So these are the 4 women that they chose: Elizabeth Cady Stanton, Louisa May Alcott, Amelia Bloomer, and Amelia Earhart. First, we wanted to really think about what it meant to be 11, right here, right now, in their bodies, in this society, and we began with writing. Now, up until around the age of 11, a girl usually has what you might call a very strong voice. And she knows what she knows, and she's not afraid to tell you that she knows it. I heard a really wonderful story recently by Sir Ken Robinson, who is a great thinker about creativity. It's about this little girl, and I think it's a story about not being afraid to be wrong, which I think girls prior to this age really they're not afraid to be wrong. So this little girl actually doesn't do all that well in school. She's 6 or 7. She has a hard time focusing on anything. And so it is that one day they have a drawing lesson. And the teacher is really fascinated to see that the girl is really entranced, really focused on her drawing. And she's all bent over it, and so the teacher goes over to her and she's really happy and says, "So what are you drawing?" And the little girl says, "I'm drawing a picture of God." And the teacher's a little surprised, and she says, "But no one knows what God looks like." And the little girl says, "They will in a minute." So in this moment, this girl is sure of herself. But around age 11, something different starts to happen. And a girl who was previously very sure of herself, knew what her point of view was, becomes someone who gets much more silent, much more awkward, and may even become self-destructive. And it's interesting, I think, to note that it's around that time in education, right, where we've got the arts actually leaving the classroom. Or you may receive it one day a week. With current funding, maybe not at all. So I think that's an interesting corollary to this moment when girls in particular start to become more silent. Now, girls and women are very much about relationship, and being in relationship with their family up until this moment is everything for them. Being out of relationship can feel almost like you're dying for a girl or for a woman. And so it's at this point where girls start to actually look outside of the family to find out what it is that they can do in order to be in relationship. How will they be in relationship with their peers, with their friends at school, with all of society? And one of the things that really tells a girl in our society most what she should be like is the commercial media. And Sue Ellen Hampkins, who is the author of the Mother-Daughter Project and is on the documentary about heroic girls making history, tells us that, in fact, this is a moment where commercial media is really telling girls what it is they should be like. The commercial media has created something that Sue Ellen calls a perfect girl or an ideal girl. And she is she's sort of a paradox. It's hard to be her because she's beautiful and always kind. She is energetic and quite thin. She is sexy, but she's chaste. And she's not particularly outspoken. So the commercial media is really very invested in giving us this image, and girls take this in, of very much what they should look like and a little bit of what they should act like. But the commercial media is not telling us, not telling them what it is that they should feel or what it is that they should think and what they could create and what they should dream of. And so what we wanted to do was actually focus on those things, what they could dream of. So we did these writing exercises. We asked them, what is being 11 like? Is there a story? And Alon told this wonderful story of riding on her horse and being on a path in between a wall and an iron fence with sharp stuff on the top of it. And a bunch of boys jump out and scare her horse. And she says, you know, if I fell, that would be one messy shish kebab. And that's the feeling of it. We asked them, if you were an object in nature, what would that be? And we got answers like a stone, a willow tree, a waterfall. If you were an animal, another kind of animal than a human being, what would that be? And we got all sorts of answers, which included the fantastic, like a deer with butterfly wings. That was Thea's. With this writing in mind, we went down into the incredible art basement of Laura Yurko, where we were able to answer these questions now in sculpting and in painting. Then we moved out of the basement up into the living room, where Meg was able to work with them answering those questions in movement. And she used these simple movements, a reach, a step, a fall backwards, in order to think about what it meant to be them right now in all of these various modalities. A lot of this writing and visual art and movement went into the play Heroic Girls, and then when we made the film, we composed it with the help of Mark Kelso into this.
Being 11 is like...
The sound of wings is music to me. In dreams I fly, what can I be?
I can fly so high like a deer with wings of a butterfly.
I run like a cat, barely touch the ground. I'm a waterfall, I'm a crashing sound. Sometimes I'm mad, I almost explode. I'm sure of myself, right?
I don't know.
11 is number 1.
I like to be neat, hate cleaning my room.
That I sleep in the house.
I want to fly on my broom.
11 is number 1.
I like dogs and horses, and then there are boys. Not not supposed to be like them, but wanna make noise.
11.
11's a great number.
11 is number
11 is a great number.
11. 11. 11 is number 1.
Twice.
Now we were ready to start researching these women from history, to go to Seneca Falls to the National Women's Hall of Fame, where the girls got to put on the white gloves and look at the first woman-owned and published newspaper, The Lily, that Amelia Bloomer published, and also a pair of silk pants that Amelia Earhart wore. Back home, Laura had crafted an expressive arts process where the girls leaned up against the wall against a big piece of paper and were traced by one of the other girls in a pose that said something both about themselves and about this heroic woman. And they filled in the outline, their own outline, with pencils, paints, and colored papers in order to create that heroic girl and have her come to life. And there's Louisa May Alcott and Amelia Earhart. You couldn't do it by yourself. You can't draw it entirely by yourself. You need to be traced by your friend. And also that the outline, it's your own outline that you fill in with the heroic woman. We were able to back them and stand them up so that Meg was able to use them in the choreography of the play. They became a piece of the set. Just as we had done with writing and with the visual arts, the girls were able to, using their own selves, step out of and back into the heroic women. Now we had a lot of material, a lot of writing, a lot of visual arts. We had all these movements, and because of the movement, we were now able to fashion ourselves
A script.
When you use these three artistic modalities to explore both your own self, what's going on with you, and to do research on somebody else, you're creating somebody who is sort of ultimately creative, adaptive, a flexible person. And I think we all know that that is actually what we want to do when we educate our children. And what really became clear to us here was in making something, making the play, we were able to foster, through the passions that the girls had, a kind of creativity that you can't get when you are separating your disciplines. So now we had this play, we called it Heroic Girls, and the girls really wanted it to be a Z on the end. The play imagines these four modern girls talking about themselves, and then with this really wonderful, abstract and elegant set, one costume piece for each girl, they become these heroic women. In life, only two of the women knew each other, but we wanted them to be able to get together, meet one another in a place we called the afterlife.
Amelia Bloomer! Amelia Earhart!
Elizabeth Cady Stanton!
Louisa May Alcott!
The decision was made that they were actually going to send each other back in time and help each other relive a moment from when each of them was 11. I really wanted to make a film, and one of the things I wanted to do was to explore some of the things that we would be able to see in film that we couldn't see in the play, such as the period costumes, and to be able to do some of the stunts that actually occur in the life stories of these women. One of those was a homemade roller coaster that Amelia Earhart made when she was 11. And so you can see Emma using the chair in order to be the roller coaster.
The shed roof. And Muriel suggests I go first.
Okay, Muriel. Ready on the ground, Amelia.
Ready in the cockpit. Here I go. Here I go. Whoa, that's like flying.
Amelia!
Nothing to do but redesign and build more track.
But her grandfather told her no more of that. We actually did build that roller coaster off our roof. My husband and Emma built it. And then we decided to see, well, what would happen if Emma actually did roll down it? And so we took that radio flyer and dragged a 75-pound rock up it, and it broke. And that was the sound from the breaking. And so we shot her on the ground first, then rebuilt it and put her up at the top, but did not send her down it. Why do Heroic Girls? Well, we did it originally because we loved our daughters and we loved girls, and because we had this crazy idea. Really born in the synchronistic moment of stumbling upon Harriet Tubman's house. Harriet Tubman saying, do this thing. There are role models in our ancestors. When you empower a girl, when you educate her, when you foster her passions and help her strengthen her own voice, you initiate her into womanhood. You have the opportunity to do a whole host of good in the world. What will happen then is we can reduce the spread of HIV/AIDS. We can create communities that are rich with sustainable businesses, give out microloans that get paid back, stop the cycle of warfare and global climate change. And we can actually create new, better things for the entire general well-being of everybody in a community. We know that when you help girls be initiated into womanhood, you are going to create women who can actually save the world. For Meg and me, this was such a powerful thing that we've started a company called Heroic Productions because we want to foster this sort of thing. We want Heroic Girls to keep going. We want a lot more girls to be able to do this. What can girls do? I'll let them have the final word.
We can change the future.
Thank you.